of that. As far as the program tonight, let me explain the Zoom process. I think most of you have been on Zoom before. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. From time to time, I will stop Russ and ask him a question, and I will wait for an appropriate time. You may chat with each other, but please look for that person and chat privately. Please chat responsibly. At the end of the program, there will be a chance for you to talk to Russ or to talk to each other. We usually leave the Zoom on at least about 15 to 30 minutes at the end of the program. So with that, let me introduce Russ Jackson. I almost think he doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. Russ's career includes being a major contributor to getting the PATCO line in operation in 1969 as a consultant, 20 years working for Major Transit Consultants, and 17 years working for SEPTA as manager of New Car Engineering, retiring in 2010. When Kodak came out with Super 8 sound film and cameras in 1973, Russ immediately started making use of them. Tonight, Russ is giving our first all-video Zoom program. It's very special. It will start with first-generation subway cars, both
No, I'll announce that.
You'll announce it. Okay. So I tell you what, I am going to just hand it over to you, Russ. I'm going to make sure everyone has their video off except Russ. And Russ, I need to do one more thing. I need to allow you to share your screen. So, okay. All yours, Russ.
Yeah, before we do the share screen, I just want to comment, Bob, based on our past experience. Once we start the video, let's just let it run through. You start stopping and starting it, and you hit a wrong button, and we're in big trouble.
Okay.
So let's just let it run. We can always talk about it between. Each one's about 20 minutes.
Okay.
You cannot start screen while the other participant is sharing. I'm hitting share screen.
Okay, you were there. Let me make sure.
But you're not getting it.
No.
Oh, wait a second. We got to share computer sound. We got
right. Remember, you have to check box both of those boxes.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay.
Now
all right. There we go. Okay.
I think.
You got Zoom on.
Yeah. But I don't see my screen.
All right. I'm gonna give me 1 second here.
Hold on. Let's see. We're seeing a Zoom screen, but we're not seeing my screen.
All right. Andrew Ludasi, I know you're on.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Help us out here, please.
Yeah, your screen. All Russ needs to do, because his screen is there, just minimize the Zoom.
Okay.
And then somewhere where your videos are, just click on them. VL, whatever it is.
So are you seeing my screen now?
I am.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
then we're into work. All right. So
There's your CERA program.
yeah, okay. If we got that on, then we're in business.
Right.
Yeah,
And Andrew, you can stay unmuted in case we need to talk.
I'll mute, and then if I need to unmute,
Okay, fine. Sounds good.
So there's no background.
Very good.
Sound. All right. Before we get it started, we'll just talk a bit.
Yeah.
First of all, for those who don't know me, I am a New Yorker, if there ever was one, since I grew up in Queens. What's that noise?
That's me.
What's that?
That's somebody else's phone or something beeping.
Well, let's try again. Okay, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in Queens. My line was the 7, and I started out in Astoria, wound up further out in College Point, went to Flushing High School, and I was a New Yorker until they started getting going on starting up Patco, and that led me south, and I've been in South Jersey ever since. Now, as far as what we're doing tonight is concerned, it's a bit tricky because the issue is here, unlike downloading where you can get from Netflix or anybody else, you can get pretty good quality downloads. What we're doing here is first we're uploading, and I have limitations on the data rate for my uploading. So to make this work, what I have done is created a low resolution, low data rate file. And that's what the 3 things at the top of the screen are. So this is not going to be HD, it's going to be low D. If you don't get too close to the screen, it'll look good, but that's all we can do because the data rate on video is very much higher than it is for slide presentations. So it took a bit of trying to get all this set up. The other thing is we're looking at 8mm film, which has a limited amount of data built into its grain structure. And we're using equipment designed for people to take pictures of their baby saying "da-da," not trains. So there are limitations on what the camera and the film can do. The film was supplied in plastic containers. You don't know how precise they are in terms of holding the lens to film distance as well as you might like. Anyway, it is what it is, and we'll see what you think when it's all done. So what you're looking at is 4 programs that I've down converted to low res, but you'll get the sound as well as your speakers can give it. And so if you're ready to go, I am. So what I'm going to do first is seeing as this is a New York show, we're going to do the Lackawanna first. Then we'll do the subway cars, and then we'll go down to Philly for the Pennsy and Reading cars. So let's see how we go. I'm going to pause for a second because the sound level seems too high. How about you guys?
Agreed.
Good. It's good. People can always adjust the sound on their thing, so it's fine.
All right, that's what I'm going to do because it was too loud on mine. So
Okay.
let's continue.
I'm not having luck adjusting the sound.
Is my audio still on, Bob?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. For those who don't know these trains, these were motor trailer sets.
When was this recorded, Russ? Don't stop the video, but
No,
or hold that question when we get to a break.
yeah, I can't say I can give it to you right off anyway.
Okay, that's fine.
This may have been 70s.
Okay, that's good enough.
Thunder Conrail by this time was red.
Russ, if you happen to know some of these locations, just shout them out.
Yeah, well, this is all the leads coming out of Hoboken Terminal. There's Jack May coming to join me.
Oh.
I think at this time the operation was under Conrail. They were changing the paint scheme to red. Being 3,000 volt cars, ventilation air for the motors came through a plenum duct up in the ceiling, but all the impurities like dirt, snow would be dropped out of the air stream before it got to the motors. Cars were very reliable even in the worst of winter weather. We're looking towards the tunnel entrance. Now the exit. Notice there's 2 pantographs on each roof of the cars. Carries 2 pans. Notice the sun visor, engineman's hand.
someone commented the color quality is excellent on these videos.
Maplewood. Bob, what's that coming down at the top all the time?
Coming down on the top on your image or what?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not seeing anything. I'm just seeing your pictures.
Oh, okay, fine.
So I mean,
I've seen this before.
unless anyone else comments, I think you're fine.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Well, if you don't see it, that's fine.
Getting compliments on the color and on the sound.
Okay, that's the first one. I hope that came through okay.
Oh yeah, you got compliments on the sound, on the color. If you ever
Okay.
have a chance to look at the chat, it's nothing but compliments. People are extremely happy.
I think the chat is what drops this bar down on my screen here, but that's okay. I don't care. Yeah, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get that, that's fine.
Yeah, what I do, if you don't do full screen, you can move the chat to the side so it
I
doesn't.
did that.
Oh, you did
Yeah.
that. Okay.
But there's this bar that drops down from above. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, put me on, everybody on the sound so I can talk for a second.
Okay, well, I mean, they can turn up the sound on their own computers too. I hear you
They
fine.
hear, okay,
We
so
hear you.
you're all hearing me.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now, when you get in the subway and you don't have the illumination, it gets a bit tricky. So in order to bring this to be watchable, I had to push up the brightness. So you're going to see a lot of graininess because it's Ektachrome film, which is grainier. It's a little bit higher speed, but you only had 2 speeds of film that you could get for these cameras. So I had to push it up and you get a bit of graininess, but it is what it is. And at the time, there was nothing else you could do. So we'll look at the subway cars. Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Of course, even getting this much of a picture only could be accomplished after they put fluorescent lighting in the stations. For the fluorescent lights, it was forget about it. That's Joe Gould, Jack. Now we're out on the Canarsie line. This is a little bit earlier. This is the Clark Bluebird PCC train. It was scrapped about 1955. Is taking it east New York, of course. That's the R11 train from 1949, built by Budd. Just this one train of cars, and that was it. A lot of unusual features that had different trucks. Everything about it was pretty much different. But it was more expensive, so that was the end of it. The outside hung doors on these cars saved weight, which they were very, very critical of getting the weight down. By hanging the doors outside, the car body structure is lighter. Well, this section of the line originally had overhead trolley wire run by cars. Notice the pantograph on the roof at the left. They're the only rapid transit cars other than the Bluebird built to completely specifications. Platform to the right is where the streetcars used to come down and change ends. Had a walking connection between the trains and the streetcars. But the buses never came down here, so it was just an empty space after the streetcars disappeared. Notice the lights going out. The rewound motors were probably good for pushing it from 40 to 60 horsepower, which should have allowed cars to go 40 miles an hour instead of 30 or so.
Very fuzzy. I think videos don't do as well as slides or digital.
And this is USB.
Right.
The circular thing, which we called the toilet seat, was used to route the trains through the interlockings. And of course, these are the bridge cars built in '36. They wound up on Patco and then got sold back to Philadelphia. Here's one sitting out in the Patco yard. See several different paint jobs on these cars. This looks like a bridge car because the seats look rather well padded. Had a microphone problem on this shot. That happens. Cable had a problem. Other problem you get into is the headlight is shining right at the camera, so the camera has to closes down so the picture gets dark, and there's nothing you can do about it because that's what happens with automatic exposure.
Russ, there was a question, can the Broad Street Express still go 65 miles an hour between stops?
They do now. Right now, there's a bridge car. Right now, the Broad Street subway cars run faster than the Norristown high-speed line. No comment. Last car here, I think, is a bridge car also. And this is something a little different. Well, anybody need to take a pee break or something before we go into the last one?
No, just go ahead. Just keep
Oh.
going.
Okay. For those who are still game to go on with this,
Absolutely.
this was the first film I did with Kodak's camera as soon as it was available. And you're going to see MP54s till they're coming out your ears, but this is the way it was back then. 4-track entrance to the tunnel leading to Suburban Station, built in the late 1930s. Was a stub terminal. These pictures were taken and they were two-routed heading lines. This was the mid-70s. The upper level at 30th Street Station by the suburban lines. Looking at the art museum. And that's how you keep the windows clean. Do it yourself. These buds are all retired now. what you have is basically double track railroads in parallel. As they come out of the station, they split, going north and going south. In there somewhere. I'll find it yet. Some of these cars were electrified steam coaches built originally for steam haulage and subsequently electrified.
Russ, was the Brunswick Green done just by Penn Central, or did the Pennsylvania Railroad do that Brunswick Green as well?
Didn't quite catch that.
The Brunswick Green color, was that originated by Penn Central, or did Pennsylvania Railroads do that?
No, the green was Penn Central.
Okay.
At this time, they were gradually repainting cars when they went through the shops. You can see how long the platforms were, because at one point there were mainline trains coming through here during the building period. Just look at the safety standards of the time compared to what we have today. Watch these. Not hearing gear noise, full of vibration of these AC motors, everything in the truck.
Russ, how many of these cars had control modules versus just pulling other cars? Was it all of them MUs or just some of them had control units?
That's a good question. I don't, on the Penzi, I don't think there are any trailers.
Okay.
They were all motor cars.
All motor cars, okay.
Gates come down and then you wait. Where's the train? Then the jogger comes across. Now the train can come. They ran some pretty long trains back then. And in some of these stations, they actually unloaded passengers onto the palace. Just get off and walk all over the tracks. What's the problem? If you're dainty about it, you do it very carefully, like this lady here. Anyway. I love the shaded lamp lights in these coaches. Such a class. Our car isn't even on the platform. They were not spending a lot of money on track in those days. These silver fours are still running today. The oldest cars in the system. Delivered in the mid-70s.
These cars look like they were even 8 or 10 car train sets. They're very long.
Nope, those individual cars. Everyone has a pantograph because it's a powered car. Now we'll get over to the other railroad shortly. Last Penzi shot. And we'll look at the other railroad for a few minutes.
Here we are at Jenkintown, Pennsylvania on the Readings Commuter Services, 1975, July.
Up too short. Up. One of the combines. Thing on the roof. High voltage bus jumper that connected all the cars together. Good idea if you're prone to have ice on the wire in the winter. Need to have all the fans up on the train. North Wales.
Russ, were the Reading cars somewhat newer than the Pennsylvania Railroad cars?
Oh yeah.
Like around what year, what decade?
Well, Reading wasn't electrified until 29.
Okay.
Pennsy started electrifying much earlier.
Was it like 1915 or something
Yeah.
like that? Okay.
Yeah, it was in the text.
Okay, got you, right.
Okay. Went all right. Now,
Great.
we have the little bit of something interesting over here. 12 minutes for those who want to spend it.
Yes, by all means. Go for it.
These are excerpts from my Vienna footage. They were still running all these lovely cars with these beautiful wood interiors like this. Four-wheelers, hundreds of them, with a B-type controller, which has dynamic braking notches on it like he's using right now. Then you hold it with you crank up the handbrake to hold it at the stop. Now he's in the power notches. Into the brake notches. Still one of the biggest systems in the country, although it's lost about 25% of its size because of all the metro construction. Everything you see right now and for the rest of this film has all disappeared because of metro extension. None of this is streetcar anymore. And as it said up above, these cars are all electric. So on the trailers, you have a big solenoid pulling on levers to apply the brakes on the trailer axles. And the solenoid is powered up by dynamic brake current from the motor car. And you have cables that connect up to allow that to happen. Line 11 was a north-south line that didn't get into the city at all. It just paralleled the Danube and connected the outer ends and middle parts of some of the other lines. And as I said, this is all disappeared now. If you look at the map, you will not find any of these routes. And we turn the sign on the end. Nice and simple, solid state. And here's why we came to line 11. It's the last place the cars ran. There were only 3 or 4 routes that had the clearances for a car this wide. And the 11 was the last. The others got new cars. They didn't get abandoned. They're still running, but they got new cars. Whereas everything you see here has disappeared completely. There was a car house not too far north of here where these lines worked out of. So they had their own car house. That's all gone. And I guess there are some people who don't know that these are ex-New York City cars, so we'll say that they are. The 40 of them went to Vienna after the war because they needed streetcars, and they're called the Amerikaners. And there's any number of them preserved. First one was at Brantford because when I came back from Europe in '65, I had all these pictures, and I said, well, why don't we get one? And so Brantford was the first to get one. Now there's any number of them. About a half dozen still exist. They were getting rather shabby, rotting out at the belt line. I had a friend of mine, Von Rohr, who was a head of maintenance in Dusseldorf, and I paid him to go down and take a look at what they had to offer and to get us what he thought was the best car they had. And that's at Brantford now. This line was rather strange. You can see that this is the area they were deciding to develop. Notice the high rise going up. And then the south end of this thing goes down into single track in an area that was ripe for development. And probably today, this whole area has been, all the way down, has been redeveloped because these lines are gone and the metro comes out here, and there are probably some connecting bus services.
So this is Northeast Vienna. Now, how long were these cars actually in service in Vienna?
I don't have it at my fingertips.
Roughly.
Well, these were taken in '65 and they ran at least 5 more years, I think.
Okay.
You see the cars were getting a bit shabby looking. So they were just running out they had 40 of them. This line probably didn't take more than maybe a dozen at the most. It wasn't that long a line. And you can see this is an area ripe for development down here, so I don't imagine it looks anything like this today. Or would you ever think this existed once before?
Do you remember the name of the community in Vienna that Line 11 served? What district?
I'd have to go look at a map.
Oh,
You can see the hills in the distance from here, which you don't see when you're in the city.
Uh-huh.
This is the southeast corner.
Okay.
We're looking parallel to the Danube. This line ran parallel to the Danube, which is east of the main part of Vienna.
Why are there only 2 people?
Hi, it's Andrew. I just found on my father's collection from 1956 a map that has this on it.
The Reichsbrücke eventually fell into the river, and
Why are there?
and the new bridge had no streetcars. The metro now goes right through, sort of across here underground under the river. But this was a busy place back in '65. You had a number of streetcar lines going over this bridge. None of them run over this bridge today. This whole area is now devoid of streetcars. You see all different types of, these are M's, I think, and then there's more modern stuff. And then here's a 2-car set of K's coming. These K's were still all over the place. There's a nice set of 2 of them, the same motor and trailer, and beautiful interiors. But as you'll see, all sorts of lash ups. These are all M's. You know, this is 20 years after the war, and they were still running so much of that stuff. And I guess part of the reason was it didn't get too badly destroyed, and they had plenty of other things to rebuild after the war. And eventually they got around to doing the streetcar systems. There's another bridge over the Danube right to the left of this scene, and that's still in use and is a major corridor to that part across the Danube. But the line ended in a big loop around a couple of blocks and headed back south. And in the distance, of course, are all the lines going over the bridge. And all sorts of lash-ups, like a four-wheeler and a modern trailer, for example. And some of the articulated cars, if you look closely, you'll see that it's a four-axle motor car with a bogie trailer, all made into one car. That's a six-axle car. And there's a four-axle car with a bogie trailer. It's a real hodgepodge of stuff. Here's another, a K-type pulling a modern trailer. Like I say, this is still a busy place because there's still a number of very important lines running over the bridge here. See, there's an Artic. You have a four-axle motor car with a bogie trailer. And that's a six-axle car. Most of this stuff, of course, is all gone with new stuff. There's one there with a four motor and a trailer with a swivel truck under it, attached to it. So it looks like it's an Artic in a strange fashion. And this is sort of our last view of the Third Avenue cars. And that's the little tidbit at the end. So, still have anybody awake?
Oh, I'm sure they are. Why don't you unshare and we listen, of all the shows I've seen, you've had the least drop off. You had consistently over 130 people and it was up to 149. So you have the record. So folks, I've posted both my email address and Russ's. Any comments and constructive feedback is welcome. The next show is on Friday, October 16th. We will have another Jackson presenting, not Russ's brother, but Carl Jackson, who's the Chief Streetcar.
Oh yeah, I want to see that.
Chief Streetcar Officer for the El Paso Streetcar. So
Walter.
You may all unmute yourself. You may turn on your videos. I can't do it for you. And if you want to have any questions for Russ or give him any accolades, he certainly deserves it.
Hey, Russ,
Thanks for Russ.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ross.
Russ,
Thanks, Russ. Really appreciate it.
Russ, this is Andrew.
It's worth the
Question
work.
for you. Do you know Bill Vigris?
Oh. Well, I don't think Bill's got himself into the Zoom thing, so I don't push it. But he's, the guy's 90, so.
Well, we have 91-year-old Lou Hitch here with us tonight.
I'm just a kid of 85, so I can do this stuff.
You did very well. This went flawlessly.
Harold Falk is 93.
Well, it shows us what can be done.
Yeah.
Thanks, Russ.
Anyway, we know we can do this, which is useful information.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah,
Hey, I'm going to say good night. Thank you.